I'm going to show you how to turn off and turn on things so it's easier to manage. So I've got title selected here, and I'm going to tick in the inspector. The title image disappears. Credit, I'm going to tick the little tick in the inspector, turn that off as well. Moon, that's fine. Break BG, we can leave that as well. The midground, I'm going to turn off. But the back buildings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select with back building selected, and making sure I have the crosshair tool, which is the move tool, selected. I'm just going to drag that image down to the bottom. There we go. So we've got a lot more of our starry sky. I'm going to turn back on the mid buildings just by selecting it here and turning on the little tick here. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to move that down to the very bottom of our image. All I'm doing is controlling the composure of our image. I'm setting up the composition of our image. So I'm going to turn back on credits. I'm going to turn back on title just by selecting them, clicking the little tick up here. So I'm going to move down Dr. Jekyll a tiny bit, the title credit, and credits. I'm going to move that right down. So there we go. Okay, so we've got a lot more. It looks a lot more like the image I intended it to look like. The reason we have to move them around is when we drop them in from our assets folder here and drop them in there, all the images are different sizes. So the 0 point, the pivot point is different in each place. It's always in the center. But where I wanted this at the bottom of the image, the pivot point is here, so it's synced it up to the center point. So there's a better composition for us to work with. So I now want to add in a fungus object, which is going to be a camera, to move around this space. So to do that, I go to Tools, Fungus, Create, View. Okay, and it creates a green box inside there, and it's called View. And I'm going to call this View, I'm going to change the name of it. I'm just going to call it View Out 1. So we know it's an outside view. And I'm going to start the view up here in the top right hand corner. And make it a little bit wider just by dragging the dot on the bottom. Now you can start your view anywhere you like, but it might be easier just to follow what I'm doing step by step, just so you can get the same effect and the same movement of what I'm doing. And again, I'm going to do a tiny bit of housekeeping. I'm going to create another empty game object. So I go to Game Object, Create Empty, and in all higher caps, I'm going to call this one Views Outside. Just views out. And I'm going to put the views that I make for the outside into view out. Okay. Now, if we press play, nothing is really going to happen. The game scene is going to open, but it's actually looking at the main camera. So if we go back to scene, see, we're not actually using this view here at all. We're looking through the main camera. Something else I want to warn you about now that I think of it, now that it's happening. This is going to save you a lot of hassle. When you press play in Unity, and you're testing your scene and you're working on your project, and then you add a new block, and you make some changes, and you do things, and then you realize you've had play on the whole time, and you turn play off, any changes you've made disappear. So anything you do when you have play on is never saved. So, and believe me, lots of people make this mistake. I've made this mistake over and over and over again. And I have a simple solution, which is fantastic. If you go to, make sure play isn't on, firstly. If you go to Unity, Preferences, and then you want to find Colors. Now this is in a Mac, so in a PC it might be File Preferences, but you're looking for the Preferences setting. So if I go down to, I'll do it again, Unity, Preferences, and I want to go to the Colors tab, and you want to find where it says Play Tint, Play Mode Tint. Play Mode Tint. So I'm going to pick, select in here, and I'm going to pick a nice, kind of not too garish, but obvious color change. So I picked a nice slightly pink. So when I press play, my whole screen outside of my game view window turns pink. So there's no way I can forget that my play is on. So throughout the videos you'll see, I didn't know how to do this when I was recording the course, and I'm always saying to you, make sure play isn't turned on. But you'll be able to see now doing it from scratch, and new people doing it from scratch. This is a way to stop you making a very silly mistake. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Back to the main video. Now the reason this view isn't using anything, in Fungus, everything is sourced in the start block, and in here, we don't have any command telling it to use that view, so it defaults to the camera view. That's the way it works. So inside our new block here, our game started block, I'm going to change the name of it. In the inspector, I'm just going to call it start. Okay, and it's the game started block. It's always going to be blue, highlighted like that. And inside it, I want to put in a command. And we access the Fungus commands in this plus here. So if I hit plus, we get a selection of all, these are all the different Fungus commands that we have. I'm just going to drag this up so you can see them. So we have animation commands, audio commands, camera commands, flow commands, iTween commands, narrative commands, scripting, sprite, variable. And we're going to use pretty much 2 or 3 from every single one of these commands. We're going to use flow quite a bit towards the end. We're going to use camera all the time. We're going to use audio, animation towards the end. Narrative, we're going to heavily use that right in this section here. Scripting, we might use that once or twice because it's a bit more detailed. Sprite, we're definitely going to use that now. So if we go to plus, I want to go to camera and fade to view. So now we have a command in our start block. And when we select it, we get the description of what it is down here. And if you look down here in the bottom, we've got a little tab here saying fade the camera out and in again at a position specified by a view object. So this is our view object. And we want to fade to that view of a duration of, I'm going to say, 3 seconds. So we want it to fade out from where it is. No, yeah. The view target. It wants to know what view target you want to use. So we have to connect the commands to elements in the game. So we can do that in 2 ways. We can drag view out 1, and just drop it in there. That's the first way. The second way is to hit this little dot in a circle here, and it opens up the scene, and there it goes. It's already pre-selected the only view object in there. So if you do it this way, you just double click. There we go. And it wants to know the fade color is black. We could change that. We could have it be white. We could have anything we want. Black is fine. So it's going to fade from black to the view. So let's press play and see what happens. It's faded up. Now, if you saw carefully, it actually started on the main camera view, then faded to black, and faded up again. So we want to change that. The easiest way to do that is, if we zoom out a tiny bit, and with the main camera selected, I'm going to drag the main camera out, so you can't see anything. All you see is blue. Okay, the reason you see blue is because the background color is set here. So I'm going to change the background color just by clicking on it, putting it to black. Okay, so what did I do? I got the main camera, I moved it from inside the image here over to the left. You can just use your mouse wheel to scroll in and out. I changed the camera preview color over here in the right hand side with the camera selected. In the right hand side in the inspector, I changed the color from, it was blue, I changed it to black. Now press play and let's see what happens. It should start on black and fade up to our view. There we go, black, and it fades to our view. There it is there. Make sure you turn off play. We're back to normal view. So that's our starting point. We fade up to that image there. So I then want another view which is going to be down here. So 2 things I can do. I can duplicate this view. I can just right click, duplicate, and it's called view out 2 because it's just adding on, it knows it's a second variation. Or I could just go to Tools, Fungus, Create view, and it just creates another view for me. I'm quite happy to duplicate, and when I select it, it's in exactly the same spot as before. So I'm gonna, using the crosshairs tool, the move tool, inside the little box, I'm just gonna move the view to over here. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, to that size. And then if I go back into our start block, we only have one command, which is fade to view. The next command I want to do is, I wanted to move from that view to this view. So I'm going to hit the plus, down to camera, move to view. So the choices are fade screen, fade to view, move to view, shake camera, start swipe, stop swipe. We're going to go to move to view. It wants another duration. I'm going to put that to 5 seconds. Target view, it wants to know which view it's going to move to. So view 2, I'm just going to drag it in. Alternatively, I could just click on this dot here and pick view 2. Now wait to finished. If you see that, it's in both commands. Wait until finished. As soon as this fades up, it's going to wait. It's going to take 3 seconds, and then it's going to execute the next command, which is going to take 5 seconds, and it waits till it's finished. If I have both of these unchecked, it won't wait till it's finished. It'll execute that one straight away and go straight into that one. So it'll happen instantaneously. So while it's fading up over 3 seconds, it'll also be panning across to this one. So let's have a look and see what that looks like. So I have wait to view, wait until finished, turned off on both of these commands. Let's press play and see. That didn't work. What happened there instead was it bypassed this view completely. So let's turn this one on. Turn that one on. Well, there's nothing going to happen afterwards, so let's just turn it on and see. And we can watch over here. See, fade to view, and then it does the pan. Great. Okay. So we've got 2 camera moves. I then want to slowly move across over here to frame up our credits. So I want to make another camera move, another view. So I'm just going to right click, duplicate. So it's view out 3. I'm just going to move that across, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to zoom in so I can explain a bit more about the view. I'm going to turn that one off just for a second, very briefly, just by selecting it and clicking in the inspector tab up here. Now this view, if you look here, the inside box inside the view, that's a 3:4 ratio. That's pretty much every iPad. And then if you look at the wider variation at 16:9, that's pretty much 90% of every phone or elongated tablet or Android device. So with this view, we've pretty much got nearly all mobile devices covered, and screens for that matter, for normal computers. So if you keep all of your main elements inside this view, like buttons or text you want to be read, you'll know it can be seen on every single device that you use or that you output to. So I'm going to turn it on, view 2 back again.